Welcome back to the PhotoCEO podcast, where hosts Megan Mondrell and Frederica Gullickson teach you how to build your photo business by listening to your intuition, taking empowered action, and embodying the PhotoCEO mindset. In today's episode, you're going to hear a coaching call between Ricky and Ripley of Ripley Crawford Photography. So grab a notebook and listen close.
I am really happy for you, by the way, that you are getting such an interest in your business. That's really, really good.
Thank you. Didn't really expect it to go that direction.
Yeah, it can really spiral quickly when you have that community of people around you who want to support you. What exactly do you want some help with? Like, do you have a specific question?
So, well, you've already been very helpful, and I feel like I really need to take a look at like what I should be charging, just because like I haven't really like sat down and been like, well, how long does it take me to edit after I come home and after I've driven 45 minutes to the location and back, and like, and look at that, because I've just kind of been like, oh, well, I can't charge someone $300 for something. That's ridiculous. No one's going to pay that, but people do.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, just looking at that, but my number one thing, which is why I had asked, and I don't know if you help with this kind of stuff with photography, but I'm sure you're a photographer, obviously, right? So
yeah.
You would know, but I tend to really struggle when it comes to like directing with posing and things. Now, it doesn't come across that way when I'm with the client. Like, I'm very confident in what I'm doing, and I have pictures on my phone that I'm kind of referencing and things like that. But I am like shaking the whole time, thinking like, I don't know what to do next. Like, they're going to think I'm like, don't know what I'm doing.
Have you done any research on that yet?
A little bit. I mean, the research I've done is just like prompts, like what kind of prompts, and I'll just like take note or like trying to remember certain things, like, but I haven't really done like extensive research.
Oh, you don't need to do extensive. I was just curious if you had actually gone to like Google and like typed in like posing for couples or posing for families with older children and that sort of thing.
Yes. But yes, like that's what I'll do. I'll just kind of Google like prompts for this, or I'll go on Pinterest and I'll look at like a bunch of photos, for inspiration, and I'll pin them in like a folder.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be like every 2 seconds, like pulling out my phone and being like, oh, let's do this next. Oh, wait. Yeah, let's try this. I want to be like very confident with that. And maybe that just comes with time and experience, but
I was going to say, that is one of those things that comes with practice. It's like, would you expect to go into a test, like a written test, after reading the material once and expect to remember everything?
Right.
So, what's wrong with the idea of keeping your phone out with you and just checking on it every couple of like poses or whatever?
I guess like there's nothing wrong with it. I think I just feel, and this could just be like a self like critique.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they might not be thinking anything, but I'm thinking that they're thinking like she doesn't know what she's doing. And so it creates more of like an intimidation factor,
right?
Or feeling like I'm being judged, even though it's like totally false.
And so I'm going to challenge that a little bit, because you've already had people tell you that you're very natural with posing and good at it, right? So the judgment that's coming is not coming from them, it's coming from you.
Yeah.
Right. And so that I even still do that on my shoots. Like, I'll have an assistant with me sometimes, and even if I don't, I have a piece of paper that I just keep all of my poses on, and I keep it in my camera bag. And every so often, if I'm stumped for an idea, I'll be like, hey, let me just look through these images quickly. And then if I have to, I can like pull out the sheet, look at it quickly, grab a couple more ideas and tuck it away. And I use that, right? Because that's like, at the end of the day, you don't need to worry about how you look to another client. You need to worry about giving them a product that they're paying for.
Yeah.
Right?
True. Very true.
Does that help at all?
It does. And that last thing that you just said is like such truth, because yeah, it's like I'm sitting here worried about how they feel about me, but like I need to be worrying about the products that I'm giving them afterwards. Yeah. Like if I don't, look at my phone or reference things, then I might be missing out on really cool opportunities for photos. So,
and you also have something that you can use to your advantage too, which is I'm a new photographer. So when you've done a few poses and you're maybe stumped for another one, you can be like, just give me 1 second. I'm still like, I'm clearly a new photographer still. So I'm just going to like look at this list quickly of like different ideas that I prepared for you. That also is going to come off in a way of like, wow, you actually prepared in advance of like what you were going to do with our photos.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so there's that other aspect of it too.
Okay. Yeah. I never thought about using like a physical piece of paper, because I think that's the thing is I'm not very like phone oriented. Actually, my Instagram is just for photography and I haven't had social media in over 10 years.
Yeah.
Like I don't like
smart.
I know. And it's like, it's so funny too, because like, even now I'm like, oh, I don't need this. I don't need this. But I'm like, it's a good thing right now. It's just for my business to start, but anyway. Yeah. So I think it's like, I feel like I'm being rude, I guess, if I'm like pulling out my phone every 2 seconds, but if I had like an actual sheet of paper, I can just like reference that really quick. That might be like a cool thing for me to try. So it's not and it looks a little bit more professional. I think like when I think about it, if someone pulls out a sheet of paper as opposed to like pulling out their phone and like scrolling through photos, maybe.
Yeah. The other thing is if you did want to like a transition to using your phone instead of using a piece of paper over time, the other thing that you can do is to just let the couple or let the family know, like, I just want to make a couple notes about your session while we're in it so that I can like really make sure I don't miss anything when I'm telling your story on like a blog post or something. So then when you do that, they'll be like, okay, no problem. And you can pull out your phone at that point. Let me pull up an example. I did this engagement last year where I did this and it got like a really good response. That's so awesome. On this one engagement shoot that I did, here's the photo so you can see.
So pretty.
I said, Aaron and Dylan are just the sweetest. During their engagement session, they were so gentle and encouraging of each other. So this is like the kind of notes that you can make of like you observing the family or couple.
Yeah.
They giggled and had fun with each new silly thing I asked them to try. They spoke softly toward one another and worked beautifully as a team. This is what an amazing partnership looks like. And then I wrote a couple other things. But so if you were to pull out your phone and be like, I just want to make a couple of notes about your session so that I can really like put together a blog post really well for you guys. So just give me a couple of minutes. That's a good way to open up your phone if you use your phone.
I love that. And I think that I want to like, if I make a post, like just as I'm doing these sessions, to be more like verbal like that. Cause sometimes it's like, do I say anything about the person or the shoot, or do I just put like a funny quote or something like that, but actually like talking about behind the scenes of the shoot and like the actual people, the couple, whatever it is, the baby,
Yeah.
And doing that I think is helpful too, because I haven't been on social media in so long. So I'm like, what?
You get stumped with like knowing what you want to say and like,
yeah. I do. So, but this has been super helpful.
Oh yeah, for sure. Regarding your pricing, do you feel like you're getting what you provide back? Like, do you feel like your pricing is equal to the effort and time that you put in?
No. Well, like if I were to never see anybody else's things, like their photography, I probably wouldn't think anything of it. But like I said, I feel like there's certain photographers, and not to like compare work, but like when you look at it side by side, I feel like, wow, like I've really been doing like a good job with this. And here they are charging like so much, charging so little. So like, should I be charging more? Because yes, I'm putting in a lot of work to like my edits and everything, but Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. All right then. I just never like, I just feel like it would be too much. Like, I don't know what too much is. I don't know what too little is when it comes to photography. Like, I have no clue.
Okay.
Like, every person that asks me for a session, it's like I'm charging them something different.
Yeah, I've been there too. One good thing to figure out that will help is what your cost of doing business is. Like, add up all of your expenses of like, how much are you paying if you have a website? How much are you paying if you have insurance? How much are you paying for your camera gear replacements? How much are you paying for your editing software? How much are you paying for fuel and for the use of your car to go to and from? How much is your time worth, right? Time's a big factor in there too.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of have like a baseline of what you need to be charging at a minimum, so that if somebody does say like, oh, I can't believe you're charging that much, you can justify it by saying, well, like, I'm running a business here and I need to be able to cover my expenses. Most people aren't going to say that to you, so don't worry about that. But like, if somebody says, oh, that's too expensive, you already know that it's the minimum that you can charge to run your business and cover your expenses and make a little bit of money for your time, right? So you feel solid in that type of pricing versus not knowing what to charge and feeling like nobody's going to pay this amount and like I can't ask for more than this and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is you can also kind of experiment with it. Like, so let's say, for example, let's say you only ever do shoots on Saturdays because you're working full time and you need Sundays to just like rejuvenate or spend time with your husband and your dogs and that sort of thing. Having that limited amount of availability and also having a large number of people who want to work with you gives you the perfect opportunity to play with your pricing. I would bump it up immediately and see what happens to the demand of people who want to book with you.
Okay.
And if you're still seeing like a lot of people wanting to work with you, especially because now more and more people are working with you, the mouth, like word of mouth is spreading, and so you're continuing to get in more inquiries, right? If you still are seeing more inquiries, bump it up again. Bump it up to the point where you still have a steady stream of people booking in, but it's not to the point where it's overwhelming.
Right. Okay.
And what was the other thing I was going to mention on that? The other option too is, rather than doing photos in a location that is going to cost you an hour and a half of your time in driving and fuel, try to find somewhere that's closer to you and potentially bring your session down to 30 minutes.
Yeah. And thank you for that, because I'll definitely try that. And that sounds a lot more reasonable than what I'm doing. But I was talking to my friend the other day and I said, I feel like in going back to the posing, like anxiety, I just like it all like came to me. I'm like full circle right now. I like 30 minutes in, I feel like, oh, I already got everything that I need. Like the shots are great. But now I'm like freaking out because I'm like, oh, what's next? Like, what else can I do? What else can I like pull out of my hat? When it's like in reality, like I don't need as much time as I'm giving myself to get all the shots that I feel like we need.
Yeah.
So with that being said, like I could easily lower my session time and up the price, and also lower the anxiety with like, I'm running out of ideas.
Yeah.
After spending 30 minutes with like idea.
Yeah.
Now it's like, so that makes a lot of sense, actually.
It does. And if you bring it down to 30 minutes and you feel like you want to go for an extra 10 minutes because you're like in flow and you're like having all these great ideas, then keep going. And that is just going to reflect well on you. The fact that you're delivering, that you're like giving this amazing service versus having an hour of time to fill and coming up short. The people tend to value what they spend money on more than things that they get out of the bargain bin.
I gotcha.
Right.
You're right. Yep.
So that's just something to like keep in mind. People want to give you their money. So this whole idea of people not wanting to give you their money or like thinking that you're charging too much is just, that's your thing.
Yeah.
People love giving people money for things that are meaningful. And family photos or couples photos are meaningful. They're long lasting.
Because I paid that for my engagement photos and I didn't even think anything of it.
There you go. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It's a perfect example.
So,
and I bet you those engagement photos are very meaningful to you.
Yeah.
And you want to pay for good quality and good service.
I agree. My husband would have loved to hear you say all this too, because he's always like, because he sees like how much work I put into it. And then I tell him how much I charge, and he was like, what? Like, that's crazy. So,
and don't feel bad about that either, because like literally you'll hear Megan and I both talk about how we started there too. Does that help?
It helps so much, and you're just like bringing light to the whole situation, and like I feel even less anxious like about my shoot this weekend and next week than I did before. Just again, like cutting down the time a little bit, like their stuff's paid for, but just cutting down that time. I don't need to be like using up all this time that I don't need to be using up.
Yeah.
And
if I will say, if their session is they're expecting an hour, I would fill it.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah. The other thing too, I just wanted to mention quickly on that is what I do is like I have like maybe 5 to 10 different main poses that I just kind of keep in the back of my mind. And sometimes I'll think of something as we're at the shoot that gets added on. But what I do is like if I'm in that photo that I showed you of that couple, we were in this park and there were just different sections of the park. So there's like treed areas and there's areas by the water. And then there's this area where there's like cement and like these like bar things, right? Like you're standing over top of the ocean. Then there's like this rocky area. I would literally take like these 5 to 10 things and I would tell them up front, this is going to feel repetitive, but I'm basically going to be guiding you through 5 to 10 different poses in different locations.
Right.
So that way you get variety of location and they kind of like get into this groove of knowing what to do without having to be directed the entire time.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, because I guess like I wouldn't think of doing the same thing twice in a different place, but that makes total sense, because it might actually like in post when you're editing it, you might like one
exactly
the better. I mean, than the other one. So
yeah, and it always kind of gives you that chance for just like an improved image. And also the couple, as you go through the session, or the family, but especially with couples, they just get so much more comfortable because they know exactly what you're expecting from them, and they just listen up, right? Like they're not as stiff. They kind of like take it into and make it into a thing of their own, right? And have fun with it. And it turns into just a little bit more of an easy experience versus being like, okay, what now? Am I doing this right? Like they don't ever have to think about that once they get past that like first 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah. That's smart. No, I like that tip a lot, because I wouldn't have thought about that, but that makes sense.
Yeah. I already know, like, are you planning on wanting to go full time with your business? Or do you want to use it more as like a part-time, like extra income sort of a thing?
For now, like just thinking long-term and everything, I would need to just kind of keep it part-time if possible. I think it would be super cool to go full-time, but it does kind of make me nervous just because unless you have like that clientele like behind you, you don't really have like a set income, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
But it would be awesome. It's just something I would have to get to. But for now, just part-time when I can.
If you were to take your business full-time, how much money would you want to earn per year?
Oh my goodness, you're asking the girl who doesn't know anything about what to charge people.
Let me rephrase this, okay?
Yes.
Imagine and this is like, I'm reading it off of a script here. So imagine for a moment that you have a genie in a lamp and you can ask for one wish, but you can't ask for like multiple wishes and you can't ask for extra genies. Okay. You can only ask for one thing. In the realm of your photo business, if you were to go full time, what would you wish for specifically?
I guess it would come down to like I don't know. I mean, what a loaded question that is.
It's also a fun question. Just have fun with it.
Yeah. I mean,
Dream big.
okay. So obviously financially that would be like huge if I could just live off of doing something that I'm passionate about, you know? But also just like aside from that, even if I don't make any money, because I've done several shoots where like I've just done it for free, like it's so fulfilling to me, like every part of it, from like talking to the person about ideas to actually shooting and then to like edit and send them, all of it. I love every part of it. So just both those things, like being able to capture moments for people and like make them happy and bring them joy, and then also be like, oh, but I'm also like making money from it, and that's really cool.
Yeah. What about 5 years from now when you are like always booked and your session fees are at $700 minimum and that kind of thing? Do you
Gosh.
like, does it seem possible for you to have more than a 6-figure business at that rate in 5 years?
I mean, yes, it would be. I guess I'm just being very like timid and like humble.
Yeah, let it go. Let the timidness just go.
But I mean, yes, that would be like absolutely incredible, and I would love that.
First number that comes to your head.
$100,000.
Okay. Love it.
I don't know what photographers make normally.
You don't have to know what other photographers make. All you need to know is what you want to make. It's true.
$100,000 would be very nice, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Because me and my husband were very simple, living like simple life, simple home, minimalistic type thing. But just being able to have like the financial freedom to like start a family and things like that, that would be pretty cool.
So financial freedom. And my next question was actually going to be, what would that give you? And it sounds like it's also time freedom if you're planning on to have a family, right?
Yes. And also if like, I mean, I don't know if this correlates with anything you're saying right now, but if I end up charging more for sessions, I wouldn't have to do as many sessions, which also gives me that time to be with my family and, pay off debt that, we have, and just have this freedom of like, oh, I only have to do 4 shoots a month and like I can breathe,
You work 1 day a week, each wedding costs, or you charge like $4,000 per wedding. That's how much per month? That's 16 grand a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's, I mean, of course, taxes is in there as well. You have to consider that.
That's ridiculous to think about.
And then you know what you do after that, so you're not working for the rest of the week, is you outsource your editing so that you have an editor who you trust and you work with, and you send your files off and they do the editing. And then you can either handle the client database, like client relations, or you can hire somebody to deal with customer service. Gotcha. Right? And then at the end of it, you're still making at least $5,000 a month, if not 10.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
wow. Mm-hmm.
And imagine what would happen if you did 2 weddings a week.
Yeah. Insane.
Yeah. So you can see how.
Definitely dreaming big.
Yeah. 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 But it's also dreaming smart too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's like, I don't know. There's so many, because I'm so new at this, like there's so many aspects to photography that I just haven't even like considered yet, and like you've just kind of like opened my eyes to this possibly becoming just a cool, like this full-time like independent woman
yeah
thing. I mean, like just super cool.
Yeah. So, and what would that mean for like your family, right? Like imagine all of that time and financial freedom for your family in the future.
I know.
And what that would mean for like your parenting style and like what you get to do with your kids and the energy that you have to give to them.
Yeah, because that's one other thing is like we plan to homeschool
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and like my husband, he's an RN, so he works 3 days a week. So then he would be home 4 days a week, and I would homeschool, and like we would just have so much time.
Yeah.
Whereas right now, even on his days off, I'm sitting here and I'm like working and at the computer. We can't go anywhere. We can't do anything, you know.
So we already kind of talked about, I think, what the biggest thing you were struggling with right now, which was like, you know, feeling confident in like your posing and the timing of your sessions, and then how to price yourself so that you don't get too many inquiries that are overwhelming, and making sure that you feel taken care of when you're putting out all of this energy. That's the other really big thing about that. That's why that's important, is because have you ever heard of the concept of AYNI, AYNI?
Mm-mm.
I think it's called the law of reciprocity. And the idea behind it is when you are putting out into the world, you are going to be getting back what you put out. Right. So if you're putting out all of this time and energy and love and care, what kind of thing are you asking for back in return? Right.
Right.
Like, so that's really just important to like keep mind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask you kind of a tougher question?
You may. I will do my best to answer it.
If you didn't raise your prices, what do you think the cost of that to you is going to be?
It would be my time, because not that I'm a financially like money driven person, but there are times where it's like, okay, I'm sitting and I'm editing for 4 or 5 hours at a time, plus the photo shoot and everything, and my husband's here just kind of like waiting on me, or my friend asked me to hang out and I can't because I'm doing this and that, but I'm not making anything from it. You know, there's no like benefit for me. It's like what you said earlier, how I'm like giving something that's going to bring someone like joy and happiness and excitement, all these things. But here I am like slaving over it, and like there's nothing to like show for it, I guess, like on my end other than like portfolio.
Yeah.
So it would definitely be time and just like finances.
Let's say you're 5 years into your photo business and you are still giving away all of this time for free in your editing process and like your travel and all this sort of stuff. Do you think that you would still love photography as much as you do, or would you start to feel a little bit more resentful towards what you're doing?
I think it I don't know if like resentful is the right word, but yes, like I think eventually it would take a toll on me, and I would start to kind of not be like as motivated maybe.
So
Yeah.
if there was like one thing that I could give to you now that I know that one of your top values is freedom, especially when you think about like how you really are dreaming your life to be, it's that around your business, it's like commitment and consistency and structure creates freedom. And part of that is pricing yourself in a way that is going to be helpful for you, and really like stand in that power and understand why why you're charging somebody the amount of money that you are.
It's important. Like it's hard to really like even think about just having that amount of money or it even getting to that point. But like it's not an impossibility. It's just not something that, you know, you just think about, you know. Like I try my best to just be like content with where I am, and like it's all good, and we're like very blessed to have the things that we have. But there is, you know, debt there, and there financially, I mean, just realistically, it holds a lot of people back from being able to do the things that they want to do. So having that freedom to do that would be just awesome.
Yeah. And so what you were just saying too is like, because that's kind of the same thing with my husband and I, is like we've gone through periods of time where we have more debt than we would like to have. The thing that I have learned though is like, rather than working from that circumstance of like we're in debt. Like we're comfortable, but we're in debt. And like, so I can't actually progress with my business until we're out of debt or whatever. That's circumstance driven versus possibility driven. And so if you're working from the possibility and like acting as if you already are that 6-figure earner in your photo business and making choices and decisions based on that, that is going to attract energetically that actual reality, right? Versus working from circumstance. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Today was super, super helpful, and I'm glad that we were able to do this. I really appreciate your time and just your encouragement and allowing me to like dream a little bit and get out of my little bubble that I'm in.
Yeah.
And kind of like make some changes, you know, with my business and what to expect from it. So, well, I really appreciate your time, and I'm so excited, and I'll definitely keep you posted on how everything's going.
Yeah, please do. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
You have a good one.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the PhotoCEO podcast with your hosts, Frederica and Megan. We hope you enjoyed your deep dive into these tips and tricks on how to transform from photographer to PhotoCEO. If you liked this episode and want to learn more, we are hosting a free PhotoCEO Masterclass on May 5th and 6th, 2021. We will be giving you tons of powerful and heart-centered content that will help you feel more in control of your photo business, book more clients, and claim the financial freedom and fulfillment you've been seeking in your photo business. If you want to kickstart your journey as a photo CEO, go to photobusinessdesign.com/masterclass to sign up. That's photobusinessdesign.com/masterclass. We look forward to seeing you there, and until next time, have a great week in your photo business.